We've been bringing you exclusive reports about communist Cuba all week, and many of you asked me how I got to go to Cuba. Well, in order to travel to Cuba, as an American journalist, I had to apply for a visa with the Cuban interest section in Washington, D.C. I received mine 3 days before our flight with ABC Charters. Well, that kicked off a mad flurry of planning and activity that, at the end of the trip, left photographer Tim Jones and I exhausted and exhilarated. Our first stop in Havana was here at the International Press Center. You have to pay 120 convertible pesos, about $120, to get one of these, a license to be a journalist in Cuba. The first bump in the road, we arrived at 5:15 on Saturday. The office closed at 5. My face in this picture says it all. So what to do? We went back to the hotel and wrote and edited a story about the ABC charter flight, one of the first from Tampa to Havana in 50 years, and the locals on it, including those who came for business and to visit family. We stayed at the Hotel Nacional de Cuba because they had a business center on the 6th floor and internet access, a rarity in Cuba. We needed the internet to feed back our stories to the United States. Here, it takes about 15 minutes. That night in Havana, it took longer than 6 hours. That's why our story about a Largo girl's birthday party on 9/11 aired on 9/12. Happy birthday to you. How did we get around? Well, you think it's expensive to rent a car in America? This little baby cost us 400 pesos, which is about equivalent to $400. We're supposed to get about 250 of that back. Come on, let's go.
Old Havana is the place in Cuba.
Luis Valdez, a relative of mine by way of marriage, is a tour guide for a state-run tourism agency. Perfect. He knew exactly where to go to give us the best video opportunities and the most breathtaking pictures.
Well, here we
also interviewed him about life today in Cuba. He took us to meet a local man who owns a private business in Cuba and drove us to a spectacular beach town where we were able to attend a birthday party of a local girl and her Cuban family. Monday morning, this little problem kept Tim and I at the hotel for 4 hours. That's how long it took to get all of our money and documents out of the hotel safe that wouldn't unlock. Despite my best efforts, I think a little of my type A impatient American attitude surfaced. Sigh. Finally out the door at 1 p.m., we went back to the press center and got our official license, and it's a good thing we did. More on that later. Now, working the streets Monday, minus our translator, Luis, we tore through the inner streets of Havana, looking for a farmer's market where Cuban people buy most of their food. The driver was nice. The market was closed. Now, tired and hot, I kept flubbing up stand-ups. Stop, block, or harass us in any way. I'm trying. But we made up for the stress of a very long day with a little Havana rum and some Cuban cabaret. Tuesday morning, we had just enough time to shoot both the Capitol and the Plaza of the Revolution. And as we were leaving, Tim got stopped by a police officer, wanting to see our license to shoot. Good thing we had it. Reporting in Havana has been thrilling, frustrating, fascinating, and at one point, nauseating. I am thankful to the Cuban government for granting us a visa to come in, and we did follow all of their laws. And I can't tell you that anyone tried to harass us, stop us, or block us from doing our job. At least not obviously or intentionally. All right, I got a request from one of you following me on Facebook for a story on those old cars in Cuba, but I'm not really an expert on that, so if you are, or you're just interested, head over to my Facebook fan page. I've posted a bunch of new pics on these great classics. Post the make and model if you know. All you have to do is search for Linda Hurtado, WFTS, under pages. And I can tell you guys, it was hot.
Yeah.
It was tropical hot. It was so much hotter than here hot.
It still looks like a neat place, though, to go.
Yeah.
But we still can't go, obviously.
No, because you're an American citizen, so you'd have to have a certain kind of license to go. You can't go for tourism. Not yet.
And the thing I wondered about is when you were driving, what side of the road you drive on. That's like
just like we drive here. But the second day, the taxi that didn't cost so much money, you know, no air conditioning, the windows were, you know, all of that. So.
No air conditioning, yikes. I mean, you know, around here, that's what a lot of folks just forget, what it may be like if we ran into a tropical system and lost power for so long.